Good morning, students. In the previous class, we have discussed so far for the solar energy collectors, but we were halfway done due to some technical issues. So here we will discuss about solar energy collectors, that is of two types, that is non-concentrating type and concentrating type. Non-concentrating type are liquid flat plate collectors and flat air heating collectors, whereas your concentrating collectors are three types, that is focus type, point focus type and non-focus type. Here in point focus type and focus type, you have cylindrical concentrator collector, fixed mirror solar concentrator collector, and linear Fresnel lens collector. So these are commonly used collectors in the usage. And other one is compound parabolic collector from non-focus type, which is being commonly used, and forced parabolic dish collector. So these are the classification of concentrating type collectors. Now moving on towards what are collectors being used for, and what is the performance indices of collectors. So the performance indices of collectors is collector efficiency, collector concentration ratio, and temperature range. So you need to check for the selection of any of the collector. First you need to check how efficient the collector is, that is the ratio of the energy actually absorbed and transferred to the heat transport fluid by the collector to the energy incident on the collector. Next is the concentration ratio, the ratio of the area of aperture of system to the area of receiver, that is from where the sunlight is being captured. The ratio of area of aperture and ratio of area of receiver is the area where the sunlight is being received. Okay. Next is the temperature range. So range of the temperature to which the heat transport fluid is heated up by the collector. So what range of the temperature is being utilized, you are seeing that. Next you have non-concentrating type collector properties. So what are to be kept in consideration when you are using a non-concentrating type collector is seen. So your absorbed radiation received on the surface, that how much radiation is being absorbed by the surface, the both beam and diffuse radiation which are being incident on the surface. No optical concentration method, no need of solar tracking in non-concentrating type collectors, simple and compact construction, fixed and rigid platform, and maintenance free. So non-concentrating type are the one which will have fixed platform, and the maintenance of the platform is less. High temperature cannot be achieved using non-concentrative type collectors because those are fixed collectors which are not moving. And next, moving on, you will have your next slide where concentrating type collectors. In concentrative type collectors, what are the advantages are the converging solar radiation from large area to small area. Okay, beam radiation are utilized, that is direct radiations are utilized rather than going for diffuse radiation. Optical methods, that is reflection and refraction. You are collecting the sunlight based on the optical methods such as reflection and refraction, which will allow maximum amount of heat to be trapped, or maximum amount of the heat to be collected. Next is solar tracking is required. So solar tracking in concentrating type collectors, just because you are concentrating on the total maximum amount of sunlight at a particular period of time, that's the reason you will be concentrating on solar tracking required. Okay. Diffuse radiation cannot be concentrated. So now diffuse radiations are the one which are being scattered by the atmosphere or being utilized after being or coming to the earth's surface after being scattering or getting diffused by different forms, like diffused by clouds, diffused by other atmospheric substances. So those radiations cannot be concentrated because they are already diffused, and high temperature is attained using concentrating type collectors, because the temperature range is being focused because of the high amount of concentration and flexible temperature. Since there is flexible construction, since you are considering for high amount of temperature range, you have flexible construction and you can construct it for high efficiency. Next is in non-concentrated type collectors, as you have seen that there are two types, liquid flat plate collectors and flat air heating collectors. So flat plate collectors are the one which are used for our non-concentrating type collectors. So the temperature range in a non-concentrating type collectors is high, and these flat plate collectors are constructed to collect both beam and diffuse radiation, that is direct and diffuse radiation. These flat plate collectors are non-concentrative type collectors. What happens in non-concentrative type collectors is you are not concentrating on sunlight directly, you are utilizing it by observing all the radiations coming at a particular period of time. Okay, so here if you see, there is a transparent cover which is being present, and at the lower part of the flat plate collector there is a thermal insulation, so that the heat does not escape the collector, and inside this you will have an observer plate which will be coated in black color, so that the maximum amount of heat is being observed. And these are the fluid passage or the pipes being used for the passage of the liquid, so that the flat plate collector heats the water or the liquid being passing through it. So if you see, there is a typical flat plate collector where you have inlet and you have an outlet construction, and these are the pipes from which the liquid will be flowing, and here is a glazing frame that will protect the transparent sheet from getting ripped off. There is an enclosure within which the flat plate collector is being present. Beneath the pipes there will be observer plate which will be coated in black color, so that there will be no escape, so that the maximum amount of heat is being trapped, and beneath that you will have an insulation which will not allow the heat to escape through out of the flat plate collector. Now the solar radiation, this is another type of, and this is a pipe which is being utilized for our heat, that is those are these pipes. So these pipes are being utilized as a energy collector, and through this the water or liquid will be passing, so that it gets heated. So these pipes are in such a way that they are, see these pipes are they have an outer glass coating, observing coating, inner glass tube, fluid tube, copper sheet and evacuated space, so that the water flowing through the tubes get heated up. These are modified flat plate collectors which are given a shape so that maximum amount of rays get trapped. This compound parabolic concentrator collector. Now concentrating collectors. So the compound parabolic collectors are of yes, if you see here you can understand. The compound parabolic collector is in the shape of a parabola which is being utilized for the concentration of energy, and it is concentration of maximum amount of heat energy being observed, concentrated over a particular area. So in this cylindrical parabolic collector, what happens is your solar radiations gets incident on this surface and they get reflected back to this pipe. So this pipe is nothing but your receiver of the heat radiation. So the receiver from the mirror, it gets reflected back to the receiver, and the heat energy gets absorbed. Mixed mirror solar concentrated collectors is another type of collector where you have where you are being concentrating on the observer. So if you see here, these are connected with multiple mirrors. Okay, these are connected with multiple mirrors so that the energy from so that you can get all the heat energy or the solar energy getting concentrated toward the mirrors, and from the mirror it gets reflected to the observer area or observer point here. Okay, next you have linear Fresnel lens. Linear Fresnel lens type collectors are the one which are the non-concentrating type collectors which uses the lenses for the collection of the solar energy. Parabolic dish collectors, again, if you see here, this is the receiver, these are the support rod, and these are the reflecting surface. Here you have fluid pipes. So what is happening is so this is the support structure and tracking mechanism here. So in this type of flat plate collector or parabolic dish collector, what is happening is the reflecting surface is either mirror or any of the reflecting surface which reflects the heat. Now when the solar radiations are incident on this surface, they get reflected back to the receiver, and here in the receiver they store they absorb the energy, and the water or the fluid from the pipe is going up to the observer. The heat energy is coming back to the fluid pipes and heating the water or the fluid or any fluid which is being utilized. So the performance evaluation of flat plate collectors. So the flat plate collectors output is being calculated. Q signifies the charge or the heat energy being heat output being obtained. Okay, the effective optical energy is the Fr into tau alpha into E. This is the effective optical efficiency and effective heat loss coefficient. So your heat output of the flat plate collector is being calculated with a coefficient where your optical efficiency where you are considering the optical efficiency and the losses, and you are subtracting losses from your optical efficiency. Okay, so the area of the surface collector, here is the formula. This is the main formula for heat output of the flat plate solar collector being utilized. Okay, and the effective efficiency is being calculated. These are the what you are using. These are the coefficients. IC is the intensity of the solar radiation which is being incident on the collector. FR is the heat removal factor of the collector, and this effective product transferability, tau, and the absorptivity of the observer, and UC is the overall heat loss, and fluid temperature at the fluid inlet and ambient temperature of the air. So these are the things to be considered. The efficiency of the solar collector is useful heat by incident solar radiation, that is your QC by this QC by your AIC, that is your effective incident solar radiation solar energy flux. So this gives the efficiency of the solar collector. The outlet temperature can be calculated by inlet temperature plus QC by M into Cp, where M is the mass of the flow rate of the fluid and Cp is the specific heat of the fluid. And stagnating temperature is the temperature which is being calculated by your inlet ambient temperature in the atmosphere and your this. The flat plate collector is working under following conditions. So now to calculate the heat, there is one problem given, that the intensity of the solar radiation is this The inlet temperature is 43 degrees Celsius, the ambient temperature is 23 degrees Celsius, efficiency of the output is given as 0.82, and heat loss coefficient is given as 2.1, and mass of the flow rate of the water is given as 0.017 kgs, and Cp is given as this. You have to find out the outlet temperature of the water, stagnant temperature, and useful heat output using these formulas. Okay. Now comparison of different performance collectors being utilized. So here a flat plate collector with no cover will be having an effective optimum efficiency as 0.9, with single cover will be having this, and your evacuated tube collectors will having this, and parabolic trough collectors will be having this, and the heat loss is 15 to 20, and operating temperature is 30 degrees Celsius, and cost is this dollars per meter square. So if you see, flat plate collectors with no cover is having effective output efficiency and less cost when compared to the other collector. So these are some different types of water heaters being utilized. So after solar heating collectors, you have solar applications. So solar applications are the one. So the solar water heaters, if you have solar swimming pools, the temperature range will be between 23 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius. Domestic hot water will be having a temperature range of 45 to 60 degrees Celsius, and space heating will be having a temperature range of 30 degrees to 90 degrees Celsius. Now this is the typical model of a solar heater being used for home applications, where you will have it for heating of the water using domestic hot water. Okay, so here will be the storage tank, and there will be a cold water present in this storage tank. So the cold water inlet will be from here, and this water will be circulating through this panel, which is being used for solar heating. So these panels will be connected in such a way that there will be pipes present in this, and your water will be flowing through it. Then the cold water from here will be thermosiphon flow. With the thermosiphon flow, it will be flowing through this water, and your hot water being heated and sent back to the storage tank. And this hot water is being utilized at the hot water outlet to the house from the outlet. Okay. So these are the types of compact system, and can save up to 4.5 tons, and some systems can work up to 25 years of minimum maintenance, and it can be redeemed in 6 years and achieve a positive balance of energy. So these are the compact system or passive system type. The one which we have just now discussed, similar to that only this is. Okay, solar water heater design. Now for the design of solar water heater, the quantity of hot water per month is to be calculated. So how are you going to calculate is daily hot water demand, and number of hot water consumers, and specific heat of the water. So CWP is the specific CPW is the specific heat of the water, and THW is the hot water temperature, cold water temperature, and number of days in the month. So based on these considerations, you will calculate the heat quantity of the hot water being required. Okay, heat required for space heating per month. Now if you are considering the heating of a building or an area which is to be heated, usually in cold climates, they are in areas where you have space heating required. There you use this heat required for space heating of per month is being calculated. Okay, the following data. So there's a simple problem where you have to calculate the design of the solar water heater, and you have to find out the number of the solar collectors modules and the total area required. Now that was for the direct system. Now you will have it for your pumped system or active system. Then you have an auxiliary system. Okay, here pumped system and auxiliary system. This is a kind of a collector which is being utilized. See, there are three types of collectors actually. If you see, 1 minute, give me a minute. Yeah, if you see here, you have pressurized type, you have active type, and you have pumped system type. So in pumped system type, active system, what are the different collectors being utilized? You are seeing that. So the electronic controller used by some systems permit a wide range of functionality, such as measurement of energy produced, some of the sophisticated safety functions, thermostatic and time clock, control of auxiliary heat, hot water and circulation of loops, and other displays this, and error messages or alarms, and remote display systems, and remote local dialoguing. Data logging is also available. So if you see here, solar collector will be there, and here will be a tank which will be used to see how it is being controlled. So there will be a controller and there will be a pump. So the cold water will be going in from here to the solar collector and getting collected back to the tank, so that it goes to the taps. So the heat energy is being trapped in this tank, and once if the solar energy is not available, the boiler may be used to heat up the heat up the water or the fluid which is being used. So this is for now. You have types of solar cookers being used. These are concentrating type, concentrating light heat, converting light to heat, trapping heat, box cookers, panel cookers, and solar kettles. So these are not usually asked for you in this question, but these are the types of your solar heating. So now after that we have solar pound and its application. So solar pound, as we know that solar energy is a free energy which is being available in the atmosphere. And it is a major source of renewable energy, and there are different methods of storing thermal energy, and so there is an artificial way of storing electrical energy or solar energy, and it is also used for thermal power generation plants, which can be used as an input. And here is one of the method which is used for trapping and storing the solar energy, that is solar pond. So solar pond is nothing but it's a pool of salt water being used. It's a pool of salt water as a large scale industry, as a large scale solar thermal energy collector. It includes an integral heat storage and for supplying thermal energy. So solar pond is basically a water heater which collects and stores solar energy, and solar energy will warm a body of water that is exposed to the sun, but the water loses its heat unless some method is used to trap it. So what you do in solar pond is warm water from the sun and rises and it becomes less dense once it reaches the surface, and the water loses its heat through air, through convection or evaporate or taking heat with it. Then the colder water, which is heavier, moves down to replace the warm water, creating a natural convection circulation that mixes the water and dissipates the heat. So the construction of the solar water pond is such as it is constructed beneath the earth, and it constitutes of 3 layers. The top layer is the cold water and with less salinity or less salt content. The bottom layer is hot as 70 to 80 degrees Celsius and very salty. Okay, and then separating these 2 layers is very important, and there is a gradient zone between these 2 layers, and in this layer the salt content increases, and with the increase in the depth, water is gradient zone and can't rise. So because water above it has less salt content, and therefore it is lighter in this area. In this area it is lighter, whereas in this area it is heavier. In this area there is a hot water which is being circulating. Okay, similarly water can't fall because water below it has higher salt content and lower water content. So these are similarly water can't fall because water below it has higher salt content, that is the salinity is higher below the second region. Okay, thus the stable gradient zone acts as a transparent insulator and permitting sunlight to be trapped into the hot bottom layer from which useful heat can be withdrawn. Now the working of this solar pond is like when the solar radiation strikes the pond, the most of the energy or the solar energy is trapped or absorbed by the layer at the bottom of the pond. So the temperature of the dense salt layer therefore increases. If the pond contained no salt, the bottom layer would be less dense and the top layer would be heated. Top layer as the heat water expands. The less dense layer would then rise up and the layers would mix. So that's the reason you increase the salinity of the water beneath. So that's the reason there is a difference in the salt density in the layers of the solar pond which is being separated by different mediums. So the denser salt water at the bottom prevents the heat being transferred to the top layer of the fresh water by natural convection, due to which the temperature of the lower layer of the water may rise, such as to of 95 degrees Celsius. Now heat extraction. How does the heat getting extracted from the solar pond is that the heat is extracted from the bottom layer by pumping the brine, that is saturated hot salt water, through an external heat exchanger or an evaporator removes heat from the bottom layer. So in a heat exchanger there is an inlet of cold water and the outlet of hot water. So the cold water get injected into the brine solution and the hot water is being extracted from this area. This hot water is then used for various applications such as thermal power plant, dairy plants, etc. This is a typical solar pond in an electric circuit where it is getting where the solar radiation is being evaporated in the solar pond. The cold brine is being sent to the solar pond. Here if you see, the cold brine is sent to the solar pond and the hot brine is going to the boiler or the evaporator from which it is driving the turbine. And this turbine driving the turbine and the electrical energy is being generated and the electrical output has been obtained. And this hot water or the evaporator is going to the condenser where it condenses the steam into the water again, and it pumps the hot water to the cooling tower and is cooled and which is being utilized by the condenser to cool the hot water. Okay. Next we have energy and the cost assumptions of these plants and advantages. Advantages of solar ponds are that these are environmentally friendly and there is no pollution being arising from this, and it is a reliable energy source and stores heat 24/7 and 365 days and can be constructed according to the requirements, and there is low maintenance cost. Disadvantages are that there must be space availability, the efficiency is low, and the salt and the water supply is to be needed every time, and the low efficiency here is due to the heat loss, bottom losses and top losses and radiation losses. Okay, the next is your different areas where the solar ponds are available in India. That is Bhavnagar, an operating experience of behavior of materials. We have a maximum temperature of 80 degrees in 1972, worked for 2 years. Then again we have Bhavnagar again, it is being utilized for Rankine cycle turbine. In Pondicherry also we have for 100 meters square and its depth is 2 meters and built in 1980. Okay, and Bhuj we have it for an area of 6,000 and its depth is 3 meters and it is used for supplying heat to dairy farms. Now the applications of solar ponds. that salt production for enhanced evaporation and purification of salts take place. Aquaculture, using saline water to fresh water to grow, for example fish or brine shrimps can be used here. Dairy industry, so in dairy industry it can be utilized for preheating the feed water to the boilers. Fruits and vegetable canning industries, it can be used. Fruits and vegetable drying, it can be used. Grain industry, it can be used, and water supply for desalinization can be used. So these are the references from which where it is being used. Now after this we have the your advantage solar energy applications. So there are different applications of solar energy. Let's see what are those. Here are some of the applications of solar energy. So the solar energy and its applications. Solar energy have residential applications wherein you will have solar energy being utilized for some number of advantages. The solar energy for residential and home applications, where you can use it for solar heaters. Photovoltaic cells can be used for the roofs. Industrial applications are that sun's thermal energy is being utilized in warehouse and industry is to supply power, and solar energy is being used to power radios and TV stations and remote applications and solar heating. Here also you have I'm sorry for that. Some of the major applications here are solar water heating, wherein solar water heaters are used for blackened surfaces, that is collectors what we are using. They are tubing collectors, that's what it is saying. Solar heating of buildings we have, that is solar heating, solar space heating, that is called as. So the collecting what is happening in solar heating is like solar space heating is collecting the solar radiation by some of the elements of building itself. Solar energy is admitted directly into the building through large south facing windows, and using separate solar collectors to heat either the air or water, and accumulate the collected solar energy for use in night and during the inclement days. When the building require heat, these collectors are or the storage devices, the heat is being transferred using conventional of the equipment such as fan ducts, air outlets, radiators and all. The heat is being inletted. When the building does not require the heat or the air or the water is moved to the storage devices such as well insulated water tanks, other materials. Then next is your solar distillation. Solar distillation is used in arid or coastal areas where the scarcity of potable water is there. So abundant sunlight is there, but the sunlight is in abundant, and the areas can be used for converting saline water into potable distilled water. Solar distillation. In this, solar radiation is admitted through a transparent airtight glass cover into a shallow blackened basin containing saline water. So solar radiation passes through this cover and absorbed absorbed and converted into the heat energy and blackened surfaces, causing the water to evaporate from the brine. The impure saline water vaporizes and the vapors get condensed in the form of pure water in the cool exterior of the roof. So the condensed water flows down the sloping roof and is collected through the trough placed at the bottom. So the solar distillation, what is happening in solar distillation is your water is being evaporated, that is your saline water is being evaporated and is collected in the form of pure distilled water. Now solar pumping. Solar pumping is the solar energy utilized for pumping water. So solar energy is utilized for pumping water for irrigation purpose. The requirement of the water pumping is greatest in hot summers, which coincides with the increased solar radiations during this period, and so this method is most appropriate for irrigation purpose and during the inclement weather. When the solar radiations are low, the requirement of the water pumping is also relatively less, and the transpiration losses from the crops are also low. Now solar drying of agricultural and animal product is using solar radiations for drying of the crops and fruits and vegetables being used for animal feed. In this, there is a utilization of solar energy for drying agricultural and animal products, and dried in a simple cabinet dryer is consisting of a, so here at the base or on the top of the side ventilation holes are provided to facilitate airflow over the drying material and is placed. The inlets will be provided for the flow of the air. With this flow of the air, the material gets dry. And solar drying is specially used for fruits to improve fruits quality as the sugar concentration increases on drying. Normally soft fruits, particularly which are vulnerable to insect attacks, are used for drying purpose. Then you have solar furnaces. In solar furnaces, high temperature is obtained by concentrating the solar radiation onto the specimen using number of phosphorestat arranged in a sloping surface. Now this heating is accomplished by contamination, and the temperature easily can be controlled by changing the position of the material in focus. Then you have solar cooking. In this solar cooking, you have a variety of fuels being utilized, which is what is happening when you are using these fuels. You have you are detroiting those fuels. You are bringing them to extinction. To reduce that use, we are using solar cooking. The solar energy for cooking purposes are the development of solar cookers. It consisted so what does a solar cooker is like? When insulated metal or a wooden box with a blackened inner from the inner side, and solar radiation entering the box are of short wavelength, and high wavelength radiations are unable to pass through the glass cover, and the re-radiation from this blackened interiors and the outside the box through the top two glasses is minimized, and there is minimized heat losses. So due to this, there is a amount of heat being trapped into that boxes, and these boxes trap a temperature range from between 15 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius inside the box. And this maintenance cost of this solar cooker is also negligible, and the main disadvantages of this solar cooker is that it is cooked at the midnight at the night. It can't be utilized at the night, and it is only utilized at the daytimes, and during the cloudy days also it is very difficult to cook. The next we have solar electric power generation. Solar electric power generation, you have electric energy or the electricity can be produced directly from the solar energy by means of photovoltaic cells. So the photovoltaic cells are being used for the conversion devices, and is used to convert photons from the sunlight directly into the electricity, and is made of the semiconductors. So these cells are being arranged into the parallel or series combination, and it's forming modules, and photovoltaic cells are used for irrigation pumps, rails, road crossing, etc. And you have solar thermal production. Solar thermal power production means conversion of solar energy into electric energy through thermal energy. That is, you are utilizing the solar ponds with a natural artificial body. So this is also an application. Then you have solar greenhouse gases. The greenhouse is a structure where you cover a selected area, you make it as a solar collector, and utilizes this solar gradients to grow plants, and it has heating, cooling, and ventilating devices for controlling the temperature inside the greenhouse. So see, the solar greenhouse is another application for this. Now let us discuss what are the questions being asked from this second unit. Solar constant, solar azimuthal angle, and air mass is being asked. So solar azimuthal angle is the angle. First of all, solar constant. Solar constant is the maximum energy being arising to the here. If you see solar constant, the solar constant is I denoted as ISC is the rate at which the energy is received from the sun to the unit surface area perpendicular to the sun rays, and at mean distance the earth from the sun. Based on the experimental investigation, the subsequent measurement of the value is 1368. Let's discuss some of the question papers from the previous. So here are some of the question papers where you have solar constant, azimuthal angle, and this. Yes, so solar constant, solar azimuthal angle, and air mass are being discussed here. Solar constant is the rate at which the sun's energy is received at the earth's surface and its mean distance from the earth, and it is usually 1367 watts per meter square. Solar azimuthal angle is the angle between the sun rays and measured to the horizontal plane due to the earth's atmosphere, and the air mass is the path which light takes through the atmosphere normalized to the shortest possible path. Okay, it is observed by the air and the dust, so it is 1 by cos theta. So this is for the recent question paper what I have seen from December 2019. Let's see some other question papers. That is this is from 2017 when it was non-CBCS, and the syllabus was also quite different, but the major topics which it has covered is distinguish between flat plate collectors and concentrating collectors, and you had the main applications of solar energy, which we have just now seen, that the main applications of solar energy are being classified as solar heating, solar building, solar water heating. So these are the main applications: solar water heating, solar distillation, solar pumping, solar drying of agricultural and animal products, solar furnaces, solar cooking, solar electric power generation, solar thermal power production, and solar greenhouses. Okay, then again the next one we have is our parabolic dish collectors, and yes, that's it, parabolic dish collectors. The next we have is your, in this if you see, disadvantages of concentrating collectors over flat plate collectors, R angle, declination angle, and zenith angle. What are the different angles being used? And here you have beam and diffuse radiation. Beam radiations are the one which have direct radiations which are coming to the earth's surface without being diverted or without being getting refracted or reflected with any of the particles, and diffuse radiations are the one which are being reaching the earth's surface after it is being reflected from atmospheric materials from different kinds of sources present in between. So this is for your next question paper. Now yes, solar flat plate collectors, we have discussed this. You have to draw the diagram and it was presented. Yes, now you have this. In this you have the see, global and diffuse radiation. Global radiations are nothing but your global word itself says that it is the combination of beam radiation and diffuse radiation. So the global radiation is the sum of the beam radiations and diffuse radiation. Principle and operation of the flat plate collectors, we have seen this. Yes, from yes, relevant to your syllabus is these questions only. Yes, see again, beam and diffuse radiations and flat plate collector. So these are the important questions. So you need to focus on beam and diffuse radiation, flat plate collectors, azimuthal angle, solar surface azimuthal angle, solar azimuthal angle, and solar parabolic type solar collectors are also being asked. So that's it for now. So these are the most commonly asked questions for your solar collectors. So hope you understood. You focus on the basic definitions of solar radiations, and that would be asked in your 2 marks questions, that is your short answer questions, and solar water heating, usually applications, solar pond. This might be asked for your your long answer question. See, it is also asking two solar measuring devices. So solar measuring devices, what are we have already discussed, is your pyranometer and pyrheliometer, which are being used. So hope you understood. This was the revision for second unit, that is solar energy from solar heating. So we have covered energy from solar heating, that is our energy from solar heating, solar radiations and its measurements, solar energy collector and solar storage systems, solar panels and applications of solar energy is being covered in this. Thank you so much for your time and effort. So this was dealing with your second unit, solar energy. Thank you very much. Hope you understood it.